Welcome back to another episode of Black on Purpose 365, where Black on Purpose is the purpose. Have a seat at the table. Today, I'm going to have a great discussion with a great friend of mine, somebody that I've known for a long time. We're going to really dive into talking about some things that are really extremely important that I would say in the Black community it gets overlooked a lot. It's not something that is taken as serious as it probably needs to be. So we're going to be people to kind of highlight some of those things, right? So we're going to talk about depression, like how do you deal with depression? How do you recognize the depression? Just kind of undoing it. We're going to also talk about the mental and physical toll that can be taken on a person when you're helping someone or trying to be there in support of someone that has health issues that are not curable. You just have to, you know what it is, but there's nothing that can really be done about those. So let me first go into just really bringing my guy in here. My guy, his name is Adriel Green. This might be one of the smartest men that I know. He's a great father. When I think of somebody that I would like to pattern myself on being like, this is a guy that comes to my mind. This is a man that's a great father figure, leader in his community. This is somebody that is pretty prestigious. He plays it off, and he's a low key guy. But this is what you talk about when you say you want to be in a man. This is somebody that you would like to really want to mimic yourself after. So no other than my guy, Adriel Green. Pleasure for you to come in today, man. I really appreciate your time. It's going to be a really awesome conversation. Always interesting when you and I get together. We talk about hip hop stuff a lot, but there's so many other things in your bag. But I know that this will be one of those where we can really get into it and maybe help somebody out, right?
Real discussion. Yo, and I appreciate the intro, bro. Gratitude. We go way back to, so appreciate that, bro.
Let's just talk about the depression part right now. So is there something that you could really talk about that, where you had to experience a little bit of the depression and, just really figuring out that it was depression and how you went about, maybe correcting it?
Sure. You smoked the intro, bro, because you talked about recognizing depression in our community, in the Black community. We come from an era, where that was kind of taboo. You know what I'm saying? Because especially Black men, we internalize a lot. We don't go to seek a lot of help. You know what I mean? And internalizing a lot of that could end up in, taking a toll and, negatively on your health, or you blowing up on someone, or it's okay to seek help, and I think we're finally here in the era in 2025 where in the Black community, it's not looked at with a certain stigma where if you go to seek help, people look at it kind of funny. You know what I mean? So we should have been doing this a long time ago, keeping a check on our mental health as well as our physical health. So that's the first part of it, not being ashamed to recognize if you're having these issues, right? The second part of it you alluded to as well, because in order to do something about your depression, you got to recognize first off that you are depressed. Some people go through depression and don't even realize it. It'll take somebody else close to you, to tell you that you're acting differently or you're not yourself, for you to be able to pay attention to the signs like, well, hey, I might be depressed, because a lot of people don't know what that entails to be depressed. You know what I'm saying? As far as, people might just think they're, off their game or feeling a little bit down or whatever, but they don't know that they have clinically diagnosable like depression, So once you recognize that, you can use certain tools to get help and come out of that depressed state. So I think that's the biggest key elements, like not being afraid to seek help and also recognizing that you do need help for your depression.
Yeah.
For myself personally, I had a conversation with my mother a few weeks ago. We're both dealing with the issue of, losing my grandmother. And she's she's taking it really hard. It's taking a big toll on her. One thing that we talked about that I tried to reiterate to her, that it's okay to not be okay. first of all, because we're all different as individuals. People, just like the physical, people heal at, heal at different rates. You know what I'm saying? So it could be the same thing with the mental. Like when you're processing grief and depression and those sorts of things, some people may take longer to get over it than others. And that's okay. You can't always project yourself onto somebody else or generalize somebody else's pain to yourself. You know what I'm saying? You have to be okay with healing on your own time the way you need to heal. So, that's the conversation that we had. And you alluded to in the intro, being there for someone with terminal illness or what have you. But I just want to speak to being there for someone in general. And this is something that my fiance, that she enlightened me on, because I didn't realize it. Because when you're dealing with depression, a lot of times, if you have some people that are suffering through the same depression with you, if you're the strong person that's being the crutch for somebody else, you know what I'm saying, or being the rock, I should
Right.
say, for somebody
Right.
else, a lot of times you'll tuck your feelings away and not deal with them appropriately or properly. And
Yeah.
my girl, she had to enlighten me on that. You're too busy being strong for other people to really process through your emotions and really, tune in to what you need, you know what I'm saying, to deal with your depression. And so that made me recognize a lot within myself. You know what I mean? Me and you talk about hip hop all the time. One of my favorite bars from my favorite songs that helped me deal with depression is um Joe Budden song. People know him as a podcaster, but I was heavy on Joe Budden, the rapper.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my favorite
Mm-hmm.
songs ever is called Only Human. And he has a bar in there. He said, "I'm tired of being strong. Please let me be weak for a minute." And that hit me hard. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because if you're
Yeah.
used to being the rock for everybody else, you don't oftentimes get the chance to just be weak and lean on somebody else.
Yeah. That's an excellent point, man. Excellent point. From a depression standpoint, for me, this will sound a little bit wild, but I lived in a state of depression so long that it became my norm. So if I was acting anything different than being in my depressed state, people looking at me like, "What's up with him?" And I didn't realize it until I got around some people that made me laugh, that made me feel a little bit different, that I could show the other side.
Mm.
One of the ways that it's been a couple of different stages where I went through depression and didn't know, man. Like, so when I lived in Virginia Beach, and I went through different things that happened all at once. I lost my grandmother, lost a job, who I thought was my friend that had my back kind of turned his back on me. So it was like I didn't even I was just sitting in the house all day. Like I didn't want to do nothing. I wasn't talking to nobody. I wasn't watching TV. I was doing nothing. And it was like every day just seemed so long. And it was like, how do I get out of this? I really probably needed therapy. But that's another thing where it's almost like from our side or our community, as soon as you mention anything about therapy, people looking at you like, oh, he crazy. And it's like, I think honestly, you kind of mentioned it to me on another level where it was like when you put it out there for me, I started looking at it and was like, you know what? That might not be a bad idea. And eventually I was able to get myself to that point of being open to that, because it was like mentally there's times when, and I know a lot of people that still don't agree with therapy for their own reasons, but from this one perspective that I understand it in is that you can have somebody that's your safe space to talk to,
Mhm.
but they might not be available. They might have their own lives.
That's true.
So now when you need somebody to talk to and ain't nobody available, now what you gonna do? So that's what I've kind of got to later on in life, because at one point I was so dependent upon just exercising. So like I was literally running all the time to numb myself from all these different feelings and all of these emotions. And it was kind of working because I was running so much that all I want to do is just lay down and relax. And then also with that, I really started focusing on changing my eating habits. It's a lot of people that don't realize how important your mental and your physical go together. So like if you eat a bunch of fast foods or you eating a lot of foods that don't digest well, those things, especially as you age, those things will throw you off and have you in a different mindset too. And you don't even realize that you angry because you're not you ain't processing things right, but then you're not eating right neither, so your body's not digesting correctly. So all of these different things I started learning in order to be a better version of myself. And slowly, I've gotten a little bit better, but I mean, I ain't there yet at all. I mean, you remember Dan? You remember Dan?
Rest in peace.
Man, I'm still like, I think I'm over it, and I think I'm cool. But then, like, a friend of mine text me probably a couple months back and it was like something about Dan, and I'm like, yeah, nah, I'm good. And immediately a tear started rolling down my face. I didn't even realize that I'm still kind of grieving a little bit, because I mean, I done dealt with we done dealt with a lot of different people, but this one was different just because I guess I felt like with Dan that he called me telling me about his health. He was telling me that he was having problems breathing and stuff. And I felt like that if I'd have been in his life a little bit more, like we were talking, but we didn't talk as often. I felt like I would have pushed him a little bit more to at least go to the doctor to get himself checked out. And so like that, that bothered me for a long, long, long time. And I'll say that the closure that I actually got out of it, and I'll send you a picture of it, I was able to help his mother to get his headstone. We literally just got that installed. Like we've been, paying on it and everything. That was just installed like last week.
Mm-hmm.
He died at the end of 2002.
Right.
So in that process, it's almost like when that happened, it kind of hit me, and then I thought about it. I didn't think about it then, and then later, it was like a whole different. I guess whatever the depression that I was still kind of holding in my body, it kind of just like released. And I'm like, dang. So it goes back to what you were saying about, people grieve in a different way in a different time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, man.
It's and I like how you mentioned you finally got that release and you got that closure, because that's what people need. And you alluded to that with having an outlet to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's important to maybe look in to go and get therapy, because you said your friends might not be available, or the people close to you. You know what I mean? And just to be honest, it's good to seek professional help. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, we're not professionals. I've done took psychology courses for my profession, but at the same time, your friends are not always going to be there to give you the right words to say, so to speak. I mean, they may have your best interests at heart, but it's good to seek professional help. And some of your friends may tell you what you want to hear versus what you need to hear. We all need those real friends that'll give it to us straight, regardless. But at the same time, you might not be surrounded with those, and people will just tell you what you need to what you want to hear, and you kind of fall back into those depressive habits or whatever. But yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's something I did when I not to get too personal, but like I dealt with depression during and after a divorce, and I got counseling. I said, well, I'm gonna check this out. You know what I mean? See
Yeah,
if it can help
yeah,
me. And I think it's something that did help me, but everybody needs that release. Everybody needs somebody to talk to. But that's one of the things that people should do, in my opinion. You should surround yourself with a support system, people who
yeah.
have your best interests at heart. I like how you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned, I've known this about you for years. You really enjoy running, exercise, those sorts
Mm-hmm.
of things. I think that people should engage in a hobby. Everybody
Yeah,
doesn't have hobbies. I have an expensive hobby. I collect sneakers and stuff, but
yeah.
it brings me joy. You know what I mean? Or whether it be
Mm-hmm.
exercising, or whatever it is that brings you joy, that's something that you should engage in to help bring yourself out of the of a depressive state. And just be mindful of how you move every day, because the first thing that most people want to do when they're in a depressed state is isolate, and that's not healthy. You know what I mean? You got to surround yourself with people that'll lift you up. You know what I mean? You don't want to lean into that depressive state and be by yourself and drown in your own sorrow, so to speak, because that's a dangerous game that a lot of people
Yeah,
play, and it can end up pretty tragic. And
yeah.
and I know I like how you mentioned earlier about being around people that made you laugh. Bro, we've known each other for a lot of years. I consider myself a funny dude anyway. But one of the things I do if I'm like depressed, I lean into
Mm-hmm.
that and I become a comedian. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
well, I'm gonna laugh my way through this pain. So I'm cracking jokes all the time, left and right. But you know what I'm saying? Like the people who know me, like, you know what I'm saying? Like you're doing too much. It might be something, you know what I'm saying? It might be something wrong with you, you know what I'm saying? Because I lean too much just to try to laugh through the pain to keep from crying or whatever. But talking about the people you surround yourself with, a lot of people don't realize that sometimes you can get depressed by proxy, meaning that other people might be dealing with things in their life that are depressing, and you might be trying to be there for them, but you're there for them in the capacity where, you know, it's a transfer of energy. You don't even know why you're depressed, but you're around them so much and helping them so much with their problems or their issues that gets transferred to you, and you don't know why you feel this heaviness on you and then why you're feeling depressed. So it's just, you know, be careful with those sorts of things because you can be there to support someone and help them through, but that very well can affect you as well.
One of the things that kind of been working through with my mother is, she's been because my grandfather passed. It's been a little over a year now, so my mother has been working through the depression. So hopefully she'll get to check this out because um that's the one thing that you mentioned that I really have been emphasizing to her even before the death was like establishing some hobbies,
Yes.
sitting like figuring out some things that you like to do. And whether you go do it with some people or not, just to go do something. And whether it's walking around the neighborhood or coloring or, diving into specific music, one of the things I started doing is aside from, running, is I started writing this stuff. I started back writing a little bit. So it's not really rhymes as much as more it's just like writing about, say, what I feel, how I feel that day, things, some of my plans. Yeah, yeah. But yeah. So no, that those are. I think that that's a really good amount of information to share, and I think that'll help some people out when they tune in.
Add
For
one more
people that
thing.
do,
I just want to, you know, lean into your faith too. Stay prayed up.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Lean into
yeah,
your faith. You know what I'm saying? You can't get
yeah,
enough prayer. You know, don't be ashamed to ask for prayer for people that you need help. You know what I'm saying? Or the more prayers to go up for you, the better. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, lean into your faith, man, because sometimes that's all we got. You know, is our faith.
yeah.
So I just wanted to put that in there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very important thing to highlight and emphasize. So now with that, I want to transition into talking about having to mentally and physically prepare yourself when you're helping somebody that you care about that has a sickness or they have something that is not going to be cured. Like how have you had to experience that? And, if so, could you maybe share a little bit of where your mindset was and
Dealing with that type of situation in general, I haven't per se been with something that been exposed to having to deal with a family member or a loved one, you know, going through something that wasn't curable. But even in that respect, like I just said, you know, you have to lean heavy on your faith because, you know, I don't think anything is impossible per se. You know what I'm saying? You know, just whatever God's will. You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah,
but
yeah,
what I do want to speak to in that regard, like you said, once you realize it's nothing you can do, that's, you know, in school, I learned about the stages of grief, you know, that we go through. And it's broken down in acronym. The acronym is called DABDA, DABDA. And the first of that means the first stage of grief is denial, right? So whatever happens, like that situation, like say if you have a family member that's terminally ill or whatever, you're gonna be like, nah, that's no way. You know, I don't believe it. You know, I'm not taking that. I don't believe it or whatever. So that's usually the first stage we go through. Then the next stage that usually comes is anger. So now you're kind of like, you know, mad about the situation. It makes you upset. You know what I'm saying? It makes you very emotional. And then the B after that is bargaining. So you're starting to come around to the reality of the situation. So now, you know, whatever your faith, you're bargaining with God or your higher power, whatever. And you're saying to yourself, okay, like maybe it's something that I did, you know what I'm saying, in my life. And this, you know, is atonement for, them or whatever. You're just trying to like, well, I'll get right with you, God, or whatever, if you heal my family member, or, I'll do this or do that. You're just trying to barter yourself out of the painful situation that you're in, bargaining. So that's the D to A to B. And then the D is the depression itself. You get into a deep depressive state. So that's the next D. And then the last stage of it, the A, is acceptance. So that's when you done been through all these other different emotions and you finally arrive to the conclusion that the situation is what it is. It's in, God's hands, whatever, I'm saying? There's nothing you can do about it but accept it. And then you got to be okay with that. And that's usually the last stage to come. Some people never make it to the acceptance stage. You know what I mean? And
Mm.
and a lot of times people take a very long time to get there. And, when we go through those stages, we might skip a stage or revert back to a stage or whatever. It doesn't have to be in that order per se, but a lot of times those are the stages, most people go through with dealing with one of those types of situations. So that's what I wanted to speak to. So I could, give people information on that.
I'm gonna have to go back and rewrite that down because I know that I've experienced it in a couple of different ways. I was thinking about, so my father actually had, when I came up with this, I was thinking about my father had liver problems from drinking so much that he reached a level where it was like if he didn't have alcohol in his body every couple of hours, that he would start having seizures where it would be like foam and stuff pouring out his mouth, like his eyes are rolling the back of his head and everything. And it was like it was at a certain point where it was like, it ain't nothing I could do about it. He's probably going to die at some point, right? And it was just like and our relationship wasn't great, so it was like the immaturity in me wasn't like taking the seriousness of it and like being there to make sure he was cool. It would more be like I come through, you got what you need, yeah, and then I'm going on about my business because I'm like a teenager, whatever. And it was just like, but then also the hurtful things that he would say, not understanding why those things were being said. So that was another part of the mental part of it that I wasn't really understanding that much, is because anything that he's lashing out at me about, it ain't really about me. It's him trying to figure these things out for himself. And it took me years because I never talked to anybody about it. Like the family didn't know about it, and it was just those different things trying to figure it out. Because my mother she probably suppressed the most of it, which is where would see him, we seen him spiraling down, and there was nothing that we could do about it because we knew he wasn't going to stop. At that point, he was at a point where he was at a level where he couldn't stop. If he did stop, he was going to die, And it was just like, all right, it was almost like a walking zombie because it would just be like you couldn't pay attention to every single little thing was going on with him because if you did, you'd be too emotionally invested to a point where it would have your day messed up, would have you like in a bad place too. So I literally walked for about I probably was in a stage of like almost like a zombie for about maybe a year and a half, 2 years of watching my father kind of spiral down. And that was where it put me in that's why I said earlier about living in depression. And that was like it was normal to be in that certain stage because it was like the energy was transferred to me immediately. As soon as I walked through the living room or walked through a room and you see that and you be like, all right, but you can't react in a certain way. You just stay null. So those were some things mentally. It built up a tough. Like my skin was so tough that years later now I'm grateful because one of my dad's friends, he explained to me that me going through the different things or experiencing the things with my father was one of the greatest gifts he could have gave me. And I was like, what you mean? And he was like, because he's prepared you for the world and how tough things are going to be. But if you can take whatever you had to go through with somebody that you absolutely love, that you're vulnerable with, then you're going to be prepared for any and everything else down the road as you get older. So I didn't see it then, but as I gotten older now, different stuff come up and you be like, yeah, okay, I got it. And that's another one of the messages that I'd like to convey is that, oftentimes the things that we're experiencing, once you figure out the right way to get through them, you can resort to them after you get older and you don't really have to take. You can get through it a lot easier, or a lot, or know at least know an appropriate way to get through it and deal with it without it impacting everybody else around you. You know what I mean?
Right. And that comes with mental maturity too, because sometimes we're exposed to certain traumas that we shouldn't be exposed to at a young age, but we got to
Mm,
be resilient
yeah.
and deal with them the best we can. But as we get older and our experiences pile up, then we have that mental maturity where we can lean on in those situations, man. And I remember you going through all that, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? During that time, you didn't really talk about it a whole lot, but I remember that was like a hard thing for you to go through and open up about. Um, but you know, but it's tough in internalizing all that stuff and not having an outlet like we spoke about earlier. I think the most dangerous thing that anybody can do in their depressive state is become numb to what that state
Yeah.
is. Because if you're at a point of
Yeah.
numbness and you're not feeling anything, you're depressed, you're just there, and you're just
Mhm.
numb to everything. I think that's the most dangerous place to be, because I think if your awareness is and your senses are heightened to, like, man, I'm really down, like, you know what I'm saying, I'm really depressed. If you have the wherewithal and to, like, say, okay, I need to pull myself up out of this, then that's easier to do because you're cognizant of what's going on. But if you're numb, like, you know what I mean?
Nothing matters. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a dangerous place to be in.
Indeed, indeed. Those are excellent things to talk about, and we probably have to do another segment at some point because this was dope. What I want to do though, we're gonna kind of leave out of here, but before we leave, I got this little thing that I do, and the way that I'm gonna do is called rapid fire questions for you. So what I'm gonna do is I'm either gonna say maybe like a word, and you come up and you respond with whatever comes to your mind,
Okay.
or I might ask you a question, and the first thing that comes to your mind, you just say that. We're gonna do that about. I got 10 questions, 10 items. I'm gonna throw out there for
And
you.
this might be tough.
We good?
Yep.
Nah. I kept it kind of simple. All right. So number one, United States.
In shambles.
Facts. The perfect day.
Spending time with my kids, my mother, my fiance, just everybody close to me that I love dearly.
Yeah. Laughing hard.
All the time. Like I said, if nobody else laugh at me, I laugh at myself, man. I think I'm a funny guy. One of the best to ever do it.
Marshall University.
Alumni. See it in the background.
Yes,
That's
sir.
that's where our friendship became real close at Marshall. So I
Yes,
value
sir.
that.
My next door neighbor.
No doubt.
Let me see. Most embarrassing moment.
Ah, man, I got quite a few of those. My children, some of those that I can tell my children, they crack up and they always get me to run those stories back again, and they use them as blackmail against me to tell their nana.
Facts. All right. Yeah. Got you. Your happy place.
Like I said before, at home, being a father with my kids, man, that's my kids are the greatest thing that ever happened to me. So that's definitely my happy
Yeah.
place.
Alhamdulillah. Yeah. Let's see. 90s hip hop.
The GOAT era won't ever be duplicated. Won't ever be duplicated.
Boy, it's like a sunshine just came through when I said that to you. Your whole face lit up.
Yeah,
Interracial relationships.
in one. And I don't think nothing's wrong with it, man. I think we should be, spreading our cultures, each one teach one. You know what I'm saying? It's the beautiful thing. So
Yeah. Yeah. Last one. The meaning of life.
it's what you make it. At the end of the day, we all are on different paths, and I think everybody has different meanings and different things that they're seeking out to accomplish. But I think it's easier to accomplish if you shoot for what you feel like the meaning of life is and not what somebody else feel like it is. Don't live your life to other people's expectations. Do you?
Like it. I like it. Do you have anything else you want to include? Got any endeavors coming up? You can mention anything before we wrap up.
And this was really dope.
Floor's yours.
If y'all are lovers of hip hop, I'm part of a hip hop podcast called Hip Hop Talks. We are on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple, Amazon as well, Amazon Prime. So, yeah, I mean, if you like listen to people talk hip hop, then check us out. That's about it, man.
Will do, will do. This has been a pleasure, man. We're gonna have to get together and talk a little bit more. I got a couple of different people that other guests and other friends and stuff that we gonna at some point we gonna all try to get everybody in and we all can put our heads together.
Have a
So
panel of people. Yeah,
yeah,
that'd be
man.
dope.
Yeah, for sure. But for now, if anybody that watches us, we would comment, give us any of your suggestions, like, share, just let us know some suggestions if that's something that's a profession to you all. But from now on, I just want to say that it was a pleasure. Pulled up a seat, got a plate. Now you're full. Has been another great episode, Black on Purpose
Thank
365.
you for having me, bro.